Right, who wants turkey and ham sandwiches?
Oh man, I can't. Can you not make anything else out of the Christmas leftovers?
Right, I'll go have a look.
I'm going to show you how to use the leftovers from your Christmas dinner to make some tasty alternatives to the never-ending stream of turkey and ham sandwiches. You can use all your Christmas leftovers, meat and vegetables, and put them into a pie. And I'm going to show you how to use your turkey carcass to make a delicious stock that you can use for any recipe that calls for stock, and can be the base of an excellent soup that will use up all your leftovers for a totally waste-free Christmas. As usual, I've cooked too much for Christmas dinner and still have a lot of meat left over. Let's get started by stripping all the meat off the turkey. We will put that to one side and put all the bones into a large pot. Next is the mirepoix, the holy trinity of veg: celery, carrot and onion. These can be roughly chopped and thrown into the pot with bones. If you cooked your turkey on a trivet like I showed you in the last episode, you can skip this stage and just use the veg from the trivet, which will also be enriched with all the juices from your bird. Put that onto the heat, on full, and cover with a lid. Bring to the boil and then turn down to a low heat and leave to simmer for about an hour. Long and low works best. While that's cooking, we will get on with the pastry for the pie. The basic theory of pastry is that you use half the amount of fat to flour. So if you're using 100 grams of fat, you use 200 grams of flour. 4 ounces of fat, 8 ounces of flour. If you want to make a bigger pie, increase the relative amounts. And if you only want to make a tiny pie, decrease. 8 ounces of flour to 4 ounces of butter makes enough pastry for an average size pie. You can use any sort of fat you like: butter, lard, goose fat, margarine, or a mixture of any of these. Likewise, with the flour, you can use white flour or a more healthy wholemeal flour. It is best to use plain, not self-raising flour. Put the flour into the bowl and add a pinch of salt, and break the butter into small pieces. Rub together till they form little breadcrumbs. Pies have a long and interesting history, dating back to the ancient Egyptians. As early as the 5th century BC, it was possible to be employed as a pastry chef in ancient Greece. Make a hollow in the middle of the mix and add about half a glass of water, then turn the mixture with your hand until it forms a ball. Turn out onto a floured surface and lightly knead. Then wrap in cellophane and put it into the fridge to chill. Then you can do the same till the stock is ready. To make the pie filling and the soup, we are going to cut up an onion and a leek. Make sure you give the leek a good rinse. They're terrors for hiding bits of grit. The stock has been simmering away for a good hour now. The smell is delicious. Strain through a colander into another pot and leave that to drain. Now return your large pot to the stove on a high heat. When the pot is nice and hot, add some oil. Let that heat through and then add your chopped onions and leeks. You'll know it's hot enough when you get a good sizzling sound. If the oil is not hot enough, instead of frying, you'll be boiling your onions in oil, and that is not a good plan. Give it a good stir to stop the onions from sticking to the bottom of the pan and to help them cook evenly. Turn the heat down to 2 and cover the pan while you do the garlic. There are a lot of different ways of preparing garlic. Chopping, crushing, blending, but my garlic hack is the grater. You don't even have to peel it. Just grate to make a lovely garlic paste. Next, we are going to chop some fresh herbs. Place a damp tea towel underneath your chopping board. This stops it from sliding around and makes chopping those delicious smelling herbs even more of an enjoyable task. Today I am just using parsley and thyme. Roll the parsley into a tight ball. This is called a chiffonade. It makes it easier to get a good fine cut.
Give me time to rely on love. Let me love.
Roughly cut up your turkey and your ham. It doesn't have to be too fine. Let's see how the leeks are doing. Lovely. In goes the turkey and ham pieces. Now I'm going to add a couple of tins of sweet corn and some frozen peas, because they're Joe's favourites, and he needs cheering up, as he was so disappointed that all Santa bought him was a piece of coal. But you can use any veg that you have left over from the Christmas dinner. Sprouts, carrots, parsnips. You can even chuck any leftover stuffing in there. Literally anything. In goes the chopped herbs and that delicious stock. Give that a stir. And then add some cream. Go on, the diet doesn't start till next year. Right, leave that to cool off a bit. Right, let's roll out the pastry and blind bake the pie base. Make sure you get a good fine layer of flour on your surface and on your rolling pin so it doesn't stick. Take 3/4 of the pastry and roll it evenly, turning regularly till it's about 2 millimeters thin and big enough to cover the inside of your pie dish. Oil or butter the inside of the pie dish to make sure that the pie does not stick. Gently roll the pastry up onto the rolling pin and slip it into the pie dish. You will need to be really careful not to make any holes in the pastry as you gently push it into the dish. You can use your rolling pin to roll off any excess pastry, or you can just use a knife. Then we are going to prick the base with a fork to stop it from rising up when it cooks. We need to blind bake the base so that it doesn't go soggy when we put the filling in. Cover the pastry with a piece of baking parchment, then fill it with rice or dried beans. This stops the pastry from rising when it is cooking. Put that into the oven at 220 Celsius for 8 to 10 minutes. While that is in the oven, roll out the remaining 1/4 of your pastry. Once that has been in for 10 minutes, take it out, remove the paper and rice. Using a slotted spoon, ladle the filling into the pie. The slotted spoon makes sure that the pie mix isn't too wet, keeping all the creamy juice for the soup. Pop the pastry on the top. Trim off the excess pastry and brush over with a beaten egg. Then into the oven at 180 degrees till deep golden brown.
Okay, so who wants pie and who wants soup?
Soup.
So here is a nice slice of pie for Jolene and a hearty bowl of soup for Joe. Hope the rest of the year is fantastic, and I'll be back in January with a week-long plan to get you back in shape after all that pie and soup. Happy New Year!